Could Travis Hunter end up a New England Patriot? All discussed here on Patscast.
They say legends don't fall, but what if they do? Travis Hunter and Ford Drake in red, white, and blue. Two-way terror.
Welcome to Patscast. I'm Brad Whitaker. Good to be with you. You know, things would have been a lot easier had the Patriots just lost that game in Week 18. They could pick any of these prospects coming out of the NFL draft. Instead, they win a garbage time game and will be selecting at number 4th overall, which means fate will depend on what happens with the first 3 picks. And maybe there's some silver linings, right? You could perhaps flip Joe Milton because he played so well, but I don't want to flip Joe Milton, in all honesty. I think the chances of Drake May starting all 17 games next season, 50-50 at best. It's probably less than that. And I'd love to have Joe Milton there as a backup who can pick up right where Drake May left off. But we'll have to see what happens. The Patriots could get a lot in return for a guy that they drafted in the late rounds of the NFL draft last year. But looking ahead to this year's draft, there are really just 2 blue chip prospects that everyone's talking about. Pretty much every other prospect is hit or miss. This is not as strong of a draft as last year or any of the previous years, in all honesty. But the 2 blue chip prospects here at the top of this draft that everyone's talking about could be future Hall of Famers, right? I mean, that's why they're considered blue chip prospects. They are the elite of the elite. These are guys that you can see not just starting on day one, but really contributing and becoming potentially a star as quickly as day one. And those 2 guys are, of course, Travis Hunter, who I just mentioned, the two-way player from Colorado, and of course, Abdul Carter, the edge rusher with Penn State. And Abdul Carter really has been the number 1 pick du jour over the last few weeks. He has gone from, middle top 10, late top 10, to being number 1 overall on some mock draft boards. Now, a lot could change between now and late April. A lot will change between now and then, but Patriots, a lot of luck is going to have to go their way if they're going to get one of these blue chip prospects. But a mock draft came out today on NFL.com from Bucky Brooks, which is a bit encouraging if you want one of these guys to end up on the Patriots. So I'll just go through the first 4 picks here. With the number 1 overall pick, the Tennessee Titans select Shedeur Sanders. Sanders, I have my issues with, certainly, but for a team like Tennessee, they can bring in a quarterback that is dual threat, extremely accurate, and is also going to bring a lot of buzz to that organization. Shedeur Sanders is going to bring buzz wherever he goes that no other player can do, even Travis Hunter, who probably will generate the second most buzz. But Shedeur Sanders seems to be the hot name coming out of this draft. Now, that doesn't mean he's the best player available, but we do know Tennessee needs a quarterback, and Will Levis just ain't cutting it. So Shedeur Sanders, at least according to Bucky Brooks, is going number 1 to Tennessee in this mock draft. Now, we've heard Tennessee say they're going to take the best player available. Presumably, that would mean Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter. But it's smokescreen season, right? Maybe they're eyeing the quarterback. Maybe they want the jersey sales that Shedeur Sanders brings, the revenue that he brings. Who knows? Don't believe anything that's being floated out there at this point in time. Don't believe anything until the NFL draft finally occurs in late April. But right now, Bucky Brooks has Shedeur Sanders, number 1, to the Tennessee Titans. 2nd overall, the Cleveland Browns select Abdul Carter, edge rusher out of Penn State. We all know the Cleveland Browns probably need a quarterback. Deshaun Watson re-aggravated his injury, probably not going to be back week 1. Even if he is ready, no one in Cleveland feels comfortable with Deshaun Watson going forward. He is not the same QB he was with the Houston Texans. So the Browns, presumably here, according to Bucky Brooks, are going to prioritize the quarterback somewhere else via free agency or via trade, and they're going to add another edge rusher. And Cleveland's defense in this scenario would be so dangerous. All right, you have Myles Garrett, future Hall of Famer, a shoo-in on one side, and then you're adding Abdul Carter, the blue chip edge prospect of this year's draft, to the other side. It's going to be hell for any quarterback going up against the Cleveland Browns. Now, are they going to put points on the board? Who knows, because they don't have a quarterback in this scenario. But Abdul Carter and Myles Garrett lined up across each other, that sounds terrifying. And I can see why Cleveland would highly consider drafting Carter at second overall if he's available. And then you have the New York Jets at number 3rd overall. Bucky Brooks has them selecting Cam Ward, the quarterback out of Miami. Now, there's 2 top quarterbacks, Shedeur Sanders and of course Cam Ward. I think the New York Giants, of the three teams that I just mentioned, are the most likely to draft a quarterback. I think it's the biggest need for them, and the Daniel Jones experiment has not worked out, and they kept Brian Daboll around, and we know what Daboll did with Josh Allen in Buffalo. Really hasn't had the opportunity to develop a real star quarterback. And yeah, Cam Ward may be hit or miss, but I think the Giants are going to prioritize the quarterback position. I feel very strongly about that at 3rd overall, assuming Ward and Sanders aren't off the board by then. And that's what Bucky Brooks thinks as well. Cam Ward going to the New York Giants. And that means the New England Patriots at 4th overall select Travis Hunter, two-way player from Colorado. Would be really interesting in New England. You have Mike Vrabel as the head coach. He was technically a two-way player for the Patriots. Now, didn't play that much offense. It was just red zone stuff. He caught 10 passes throughout his career on the offensive side of the football. All 10 were touchdowns from Mike Vrabel. He's a defensive guy, but maybe that could help maximize the Travis Hunter, who is the Heisman Trophy winner, and his potential as a combo two-way player. Be interesting to see how that will play out. I'll talk about that in just a second. But look, if both go 1 through 3, Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter, Patriots are in a really tough spot at 4th overall. That's going to open up a lot of different conversations, which is why we as Patriots fans need to be talking up these quarterbacks. Sure, Shedeur Sanders, he often drifts back in the pocket and takes 30-yard sacks. Maybe his arm strength leaves a lot to be desired. Maybe he would have gone 6th overall or 7th overall in last year's draft. Cam Ward, I don't really know that much about. I'm impressed with the highlights, but believe it or not, I have not watched a ton of Miami Hurricanes football, and I don't think most Patriots fans have. And a lot of people have him going ahead of Shedeur Sanders. A lot of people, according to Bucky Brooks, has him going after Sanders. Will be interesting to see how that plays out. But we need to talk both of those guys up. They may have gone 7th and 8th in last year's draft, but this year's draft, these are the two greatest prospects I have ever seen at the quarterback position. We need to talk up Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward to guarantee that the Patriots will have their choice of one Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter. Now, in all likelihood, even in this scenario with Bucky Brooks, one of those guys is going to be off the board, right? Like, you're not going to have the choice between Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter at 4th overall. That would be great. It's possible, but highly unlikely. Chances are one of those guys is going in the top 3. We need 2 quarterbacks taken there. And then you can take Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter, whoever is available. And look, I think Carter is the better fit if we're talking in terms of needs. We know the Patriots need an edge rusher. They certainly have talent there, which is why I'm not as worried if they don't address the edge in the draft or in free agency. They should, but I think they were undercoached last season, so, having Keon White and the defensive line that they have there, I think Mike Vrabel is going to be able to patch that up in ways. It's going to look a lot more like it did the last year with Belichick than Gerard Mayo, where they were literally a bottom 5 NFL defense. So, yeah, I think Abdul Carter does fit the needs of this team a lot more than Travis Hunter does. And Travis Hunter may be off the board, and if Carter's there, yeah, you have to take him. But I think Travis Hunter is ultimately the guy I want to see in New England. It's part of the reason I'm making this video, and part of the reason I got so excited when I saw Bucky Brooks' mock draft. But he's not the only one. A lot of people have Travis Hunter falling to number 4 because Abdul Carter's draft stock is moving way up. A lot of people have him going 1st overall. And then if you have 2 quarterbacks taken there, then Travis Hunter falls to the Patriots. But I think the biggest thing with Travis Hunter is he puts butts in seats. This has not been a marketable team the last few years. They didn't have a single primetime football game this past season other than Thursday Night Football, which doesn't really count. I guess they kind of had a flexed game with was it the Buffalo Bills or the Chargers game? It was one of those games that was flexed to a time that could be prime time or game of the week. But for the most part, the Patriots were playing 1 o'clock games all season long. They had a few primetime games in Belichick's last year, but even those were dwindling then. A guy like Travis Hunter is going to put the Patriots on the map, and they're going to get at least one Sunday night football game. They didn't have a Monday night game last year. They'll get one of those. They didn't have a Sunday night game either, even though they had a preseason one. they're going to get lots of opportunities by having Travis Hunter, by now that Drake May is well known as a strong quarterback around the league among fans, and now that you have Mike Vrabel and the organization is restoring its reputation, Travis Hunter will be the final nail in the coffin there to make sure the Patriots are at least visible in the eyes of NFL fans. So that's a big reason. But I also think the way the Patriots would use him is more unique compared to other teams. I mentioned Mike Vrabel was technically a two-way player, but I think a lot of teams are looking at Travis Hunter and saying, we know you want to play corner and wide receiver, but that's too much. That's too much to ask of a rookie. Maybe we'll put you in on the other side in key situations, but for the most part, you're going to be playing one side of the ball, and the consensus seems to be that he is a better cornerback than he is a wide receiver. But I heard Burt Breer talk about it this morning, and he said that if Travis Hunter were just a wide receiver, or if he were just a cornerback, he would still be a top 10 draft pick this year at both positions. And because the Patriots are so weak, especially on the offensive side of the football, I could see him actually being a two-way player in New England. I can't say that about a lot of other teams, particularly the teams that would be drafting him early in the first round. I think the Patriots will look at him and say, we are so weak at receiver, we do not have guys that can accelerate and separate other than maybe Demario Douglas. Travis Hunter, you are going to play full-time at the wide receiver position, and then you are going to play quarterback, third and long situations, and red zone situations, and that's probably the most any team would use him, at least as a rookie. And I could see the Patriots maybe doing the flip side of that, playing primarily at cornerback and then key situations on offense. That gives you a really dangerous pairing, obviously, with Christian Gonzalez and Travis Hunter both out there. In the same way that I talked about pairing Myles Garrett with Abdul Carter, you're pairing two elite defensive backs together. Teams aren't going to be able to throw in New England. So I can be convinced that they should do that instead and then play him in third and long or in red zone situations on offense. There's a lot that you could do there, but I think the Patriots could get really creative with Travis Hunter in ways that they weren't able to do last year. And remember, they still have Marcus Jones on this roster, right? Marcus Jones had a very good year at cornerback, but also played a little bit on the offensive side of the football in terms of running the ball, and he had a couple catches his rookie year. You could pair those two and use them in different creative situations, both offensively and defensively, and that would make the Patriots even more exciting in potentially getting more primetime football games and of course winning football games, because that's the ultimate goal here, right? So I think Travis Hunter would be so interesting in New England compared to any of these other teams in the way that they would use him, that I really hope this happens. But, like I said, a lot of luck's going to need to happen for Travis Hunter to fall to 4th overall, but I'm seeing a lot more mock drafts that have Abdul Carter going ahead of Hunter and seeing two quarterbacks in the top 3, and then the Patriots get Travis Hunter. So hopefully that trend continues as April gets a little bit closer. But what happens if neither are available? There's still a decent probability that happens, right? These top 2 quarterbacks would not have been top 2 quarterbacks last season, and it's possible that the Titans, the Browns, even the Giants pass on these guys, and then you have Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter going in the top 3. They're off the board, and the Patriots have some tough decisions to make. And, we're certainly going to talk about it on this podcast. Should it be defensive tackle Mason Graham from Michigan? Should they go after Will Campbell at LSU and make him the starting left tackle of the future? We know that Doug Marrone, who's now the offensive line coach from everything I've read, I don't know if that's officially been confirmed, but he's on the staff, probably the offensive line coach. He doesn't like short arms. Will Campbell, what's the one knock on him? He would be the best tackle taken in years, potentially, if he didn't have short arms. But the short arms are a real concern. It doesn't sound like Doug Marrone likes that. So, not to mention, pretty much most of the mock drafts that I see have Will Campbell going somewhere between 6 and 12. So, are you reaching for him at 4th overall? There's also Ted McMillan, who I've seen those conversations quiet down a little bit among Patriots fans, but, you watch him in his highlight reel when he was matched up against Travis Hunter a couple college seasons ago. he really dominated that game. Huge catch radius, can be that boundary X wide receiver that the Patriots have been missing. I mean, I know we all hope that Patriots can make a move and pay for T. Higgins or make a trade for A.J. Brown or a DK Metcalf or something, but chances are that's not going to happen. Ted McMillan could potentially be that guy. You might want to consider him at 4th overall. But all these guys I've mentioned, Will Campbell, Ted McMillan, Mason Graham to a lesser extent, seem to be guys that should be taken 6th, 7th, 8th in the draft and not at 4th overall. So should the Patriots stand pat? Should they trade down? This is why they needed to lose that game, because we wouldn't even be having this conversation. It would all just be Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter if they had the 1st overall pick. But Patriots are in a tough spot right now, and they have a ton of assets. They have an additional 3rd round pick that they got from the Matthew Judon trade. I don't know. I mean, I think if you don't think you're going to get Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter, then you probably should trade down, compile more assets, and hopefully one of those guys, Graham, Campbell, or Ted McMillan, are available there. But you also might just want to stay at number 4 and take the best player available. And maybe that's Mason Graham. I'm very impressed by him. He seems to be moving up the draft boards. I've seen him picked in the top 3. And the Patriots could use a defensive tackle like that, especially with Terrell Williams and his new defensive scheme. It's going to look a little bit different this year. So a lot of things the Patriots could do, but we're all crossing our fingers. I certainly am that it is Travis Hunter who does slip to 4th overall. But, I mean, what is the biggest need of this team? It's clearly the offensive line. They didn't address it last year. They didn't really address it the year before. It's been the Achilles heel of this football team for about 3 seasons now. I think you got to take care of it in free agency. That way you can get creative, or you can just take the best player available in the draft and not have to worry about reaching for a left tackle or taking a right tackle that you want to convert to left tackle like they did with Caden Wallace that didn't work out last year. I think if you take care of it in free agency, that's the biggest thing that's going to allow the Patriots to feel comfortable taking an elite talent, even if it's not necessarily a position of need. Savage Boston Sports listed out his dream offensive lineman for the 2025 Patriots team, and it goes as follows, and I really like this. Left tackle, you take Ronnie Stanley from the Baltimore Ravens. Now, we don't know if he'll ultimately be available by the time free agency begins. Perhaps he'll get extended by Baltimore. I know Baltimore wants to keep him, but he is a top 3 NFL free agent this year. And the Patriots should prioritize Ronnie Stanley, throw $10 million more than the second team on the list, overpay, give him an offer that he can't refuse, and then just stop worrying about left tackle. We got our franchise left tackle. He's done a heck of a job in Baltimore. We can use him in a lot of different ways, especially with a guy like Drake May, who can be mobile. Ronnie Stanley can adjust to that. I think that should be the number 1 priority, is just throw the bag at Ronnie Stanley, send the Brinks truck to his house, make sure you get him, and then you got left tackle handled. And if Ronnie Stanley goes back to Baltimore, take the best available left tackle and overpay in free agency so we can stop worrying about this, because this has been a real issue. I'm not just talking about the offensive line the last 3 seasons. It's been an issue since like 2018, the left tackle. And the Patriots have a chance here to make up for it by just overpaying for Ronnie Stanley, which they can because they have more cap space than any other team in the NFL. He then has at left guard Trey Smith, who's a guard for the Kansas City Chiefs. Trey Smith would be very impactful. I would like to see the Patriots add a guard in free agency if they can, but I'm less worried about that. Then you have David Andrews returning to the center position. Who knows how great David Andrews will be coming back from an injury, but he was excellent a couple years ago in Belichick's last year. So, he's aged a couple years. We'll see how it goes, but chalked up to be the starting center there. And then, of course, Michael Wenu back at right guard. Don't experiment at right tackle. Have him focus on right guard. He's an all-pro caliber player at that position. Hit or miss at right tackle. Certainly struggled there at times this season. Bring him back to right guard. Just have him focus on that. We're fine there at that position. And then Savage Boston Sports has Josh Connerly Jr., University of Oregon at right tackle. Josh Connerly, from most mock draft boards I've read, was considered, at least a week ago, to be a late first-round pick. I think he's going to slip quite a bit. Like, he may slip to the third or fourth round because he has not had a good week of practice at the Senior Bowl. Look up Josh Connerly on X. There are a variety of clips of him just getting run over by elite edge rushers that are also participating in the Senior Bowl. You know, if you can get Connerly in the third or fourth round, great, but, you know, I'm less high on that considering how he looked this week at the Senior Bowl. But look, he's got good size, got good length. Presumably, he has good strength, but it doesn't always show up on the football field, and it hasn't at the Senior Bowl this week. So, you know, overall, I think you got to get a left tackle in free agency, overpay for Ronnie Stanley. That has to be the number one priority over anything in the draft, any of the scouting. That has to be the number one priority. But the rest of the offensive line, I'm actually not as worried about. I'm not really worried at all about the interior. You know, you have David Andrews coming back at center. I'm very comfortable with having Cole Strange there as the backup center, especially in a Josh McDaniels offense where he isn't going to have as big of he's not going to have the same responsibilities that he would have had in the West Coast offense with Alex Van Pelt this past year. I think he can be a pretty solid backup center, Cole Strange. And then, of course, there's Ben Brown. If you want to bring him back, you know, not great, but he was more than salvageable at the center position when they lost David Andrews this year. That's some pretty good depth at the center spot. Of course, you have Mike Owenu at right guard. And then at left guard, you just pick the best player between Cole Strange, Layden Robinson, and Sidy Sow. I think Cole Strange can still be an excellent left guard. Really don't have a ton of complaints about him when he was there and healthy. So, you know, I think he can be put back there and Patriots would be just fine. But Layden Robinson really showed some decent signs this past season, and I think he could potentially be a long-term left guard. You know, spent some time at right guard last year. They were constantly shuffling with, you know, Mike Owenu being pushed out to right tackle, so he was being moved back and forth. I think you keep Mike Owenu at right guard, and then just have Layden Robinson prepare to be a left guard. He could be in that role as the starter week one and do a pretty good job. And then Sidy Sow, your guess is as good as mine. He was showing a lot of promise after his rookie year, but really just didn't do much at all this past season. I even think they tried him at tackle at one point. It didn't work out. So, you know, Sidy Sow, maybe you can restore him a little bit with Josh McDaniels' offense, but, you know, I think those three guys, Cole Strange, Layden Robinson, Sidy Sow, competing for the starting left guard job, you're going to get someone pretty good there, whoever wins that job, in all likelihood. So again, I'm not really worried about the interior. And as for right tackle, yeah, you should address it in free agency. You should maybe address it in the draft. But, you know, you did draft Caden Wallace last year, and I know he wasn't impressive, but he was also injured all season. They drafted him as a right tackle out of Penn State and said they were going to convert him to left tackle. Didn't work out very well. Similar to Mike Owenu, just say, look, you're going to focus on right tackle, and we want you to be our future franchise starting right tackle, but we're also going to get someone in free agency and maybe in the draft to compete with you, but you can earn this job if you take the leaps that we think you're capable of making. I wouldn't write off Caden Wallace right now, and I think there's real potential there for him to be the starting right tackle if he just solely focuses on that position, which obviously was a mistake last year by just constantly reshuffling this offensive line. But look, I think Doug Marrone, former NFL head coach, now is the offensive line coach, he's going to improve things quite a bit. You know, he did struggle at times as a previous offensive line coach, but I think when you combine that with Josh McDaniels, who's almost always had a pretty decent offensive line, they should be able to patch that up, even with their current roster. But like I said, get a left tackle in free agency. That is the most important thing you can do. Throw the bag at Ronnie Stanley. If he's not available, throw the bag at the next best available left tackle and stop worrying about it. You know, you should still draft the position, but then you can entertain Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter or Mason Graham or Tet McMillan, whoever's available in the first round. But we'll see what happens. A lot is going to develop over the next few months between now and the NFL draft. Let me know in the comments below. What do you think the Patriots should do? Do you think Travis Hunter will fall to number 4? Do you think they should prioritize drafting a left tackle? How do you see that offensive line shaking out? What do you think of guys like Mason Graham, Will Campbell, Tet McMillan? Are you in the Abdul Carter camp? Do you think 2 quarterbacks are going to be taken before the Patriots select at number 4? Curious to hear from you. Let me know in the comments below, and if you're watching on YouTube, be sure to smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, hit that notification bell, or subscribe on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, and we'll see you very soon.
They say legends don't fall, but what if they do? Travis Hunter and Ford drinking red, white, and blue. Two-way terror, receiver and corner. Burn you deep or lock you in order. Mike Vrabel's got that drill sergeant glare. McDaniel's scheming, defenses beware. You need a playmaker, you need a spark. Foxborough's the fire, Hunter's the spark. Full metal Hunter, built for the fight. Shut down the left, torch 'em on the right. Fourth overall, let 'em all sleep. Strap up the pads, the future runs deep. Press man coverage, he's sticky like glue. Jumping routes, taking picks to the house too. Flip the script, now he's stretching the field. High point and fades, man, he's hard to conceal. Cold nights, tough fans, this ain't for the weak. Foxborough's a war zone, you gotta compete. But Hunter's got that dog, no leash inside.